The beginning of the performance trucks started in the 90s with the 454 SS, F-150 Lightning, and GMC Cyclone. Fast forward a decade and there's a new generation on the Lightning. The Ram SRT10 is available, and you could even throw in the Chevy SSR. I would assume that when we think of performance trucks from the 2000s, the Ram SRT10 is the first to come to mind. Viper V10, 500 horsepower, it was the fastest production truck at the time. I wanted to dig deep and find the more forgotten performance trucks from the 2000s. I did cover the 90s with this topic. I actually think there's two parts. I've covered SUVs from the 90s and 2000s, sports coupes, sedans, and I'm back at it with trucks. I do a pretty good job finding some examples that most of us have not heard about. If you're a car enthusiast, I'm sure there's at least 3 models that you've never heard of. With that said, here are the top 10 forgotten performance trucks from the 2000s in no particular order. Before the Ram SRT10 debuted, there was the Ram SST offered in the late 90s and also the Ram Rumblebee. These are often overshadowed by the SRT10, which makes sense, but I want to shed some light on them. The Rumblebee was offered from 2004 to 2005 only. Less than 9,000 units were built, and the idea was to pay tribute to the Super B Mopars from the late 60s to early 70s. In terms of performance upgrades, these have the 5.7 Hemi, good for 345 horsepower and 375 pound-feet of torque, a limited slip diff, and hood scoop. For a single cab truck, that's plenty of power, and we have to remind ourselves that these came out 20 years ago. Apart from that, these came in black or solar yellow. They have a body kit, chrome exhaust tip, 20-inch 5-spoke chrome wheels, and some really cool graphics. Our next entry is the 2008 Ford F-150 FOOSE Edition. If you don't know, Chip FOOSE is a famous automotive designer and custom car builder. He was on the show Overhauling and helped get the ball rolling for the Prowler. This was a limited edition with only 500 units built in 2008, and these weren't just cosmetically upgraded. Under the hood was the Triton 5.4 V8, but it was supercharged and intercooled and made 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. On top of that, they had a dual catback exhaust, 22-inch wheels, unique body cladding, billet grille, and graphics, which were unfortunately stickers. In today's money, these cost around $80,000, and to have stickers, well, they were good quality. That's pretty disappointing. Up next is the 2009 Chevy Tahoe LTZ. They are body-on-frame and are on the GMT 900 platform. Technically, they aren't true trucks, but they got the DNA of them. What's interesting about these is for one model year only, 2009, same year the Tahoe Hybrid came out, those were a bit of a disaster, these came with the 6.2. 405 horsepower and 417 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in the low 6 seconds. For a modern comparison, the newer Tahoe RST came with the 6.2, those have a 0 to 60 time of 5.9 seconds. It being the LTZ, these were fully loaded, 20-inch wheels, auto-ride suspension, chrome-capped mirrors, Bose sound system, a nice place to be even 16 years later. Regency Conversions was founded in 1982 in Fort Worth, Texas, and initially they focused on conversion vans. Due to market shifts, they pivoted to truck conversions. We can see this 1995 Chevy 1500 extended cab, definitely interesting. They remind me of those Centurion conversions. The most common group of conversions I found is the RST or Regency Sport Truck, available on the Sierra and Silverado from 2004 to 2009. These two were designed by Chip FOOSE, at least these RSTs, and to me, they look better than the F-150 FOOSE Edition. We got this unique appearance package, unique leather interior, and most RSTs, if not all, were configured as single cabs with the short box. They all had the 4.8 Vortec V8, which were factory rated at 285 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. However, these were equipped with a K&N era intake, ceramic headers, performance exhaust, and upgraded brakes. On the low side, I would expect at least an extra 15 horsepower, but more along the lines of 20 to 25, and same with the torque. The Ford Explorer Sport Trac, at least to me, is not one of my favorite midsize trucks, and to this day, they still have not grown on me. But anyway, in 2007, the Sport Trac Adrenaline was intended to have this supercharged 4.6, making just under 400 horsepower. These, to me, look cool, and it would have been neat to see it in production. However, with the Great Recession in full swing, Ford focused on the essentials. Ford didn't give up on the Adrenaline name just yet, as it would be offered as a package a year later. They came with that 4.6 V8 but made 100 less horsepower, which isn't bad at all for a mid-sized truck at this time. Other than that, these received cosmetic changes like blacked out headlights, blacked out grille, side vents, integrated running boards, and 20-inch wheels. As far as the sport Trac goes, these don't look horrible, and that's partly due to these being second gens. In the late 90s and early 2000s, GM offered the Blazer Xtreme and S10 Xtreme, unique trucks with a lowered suspension and body cladding. As it turns out, and I did not know this, the Colorado had an Xtreme package offered from 2005 to 2007. Pretty much identical in terms of what were done to these, but they're still cool and you just don't hear anything about them. For 2006, only 229 standard cabs had the Xtreme package. With it, you got rocker extension moldings, fog lamps, rear spoiler on the tailgate, ZQ8 suspension, front and rear stabilizer bars, 18-inch wheels, 5-speed manual, and bucket seats. With that said, with its lowered suspension and front and rear stabilizer bars paired with that 5-speed manual, it seems like it'd be fun to drive. Up next is the 2007 Ford Saleen 331. There were two variations, one being supercharged and the other not. Total production for both comes out to a little over 500 units. Ford never had a third generation Lightning, so this and the FOOSE edition were the next best thing. Speaking of that, these made the same amount of power, 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. The regular S331 made a little over 330 horsepower. Extensive work was done to these both cosmetically and mechanically. The most unique aspect to these would be those twin side pipes. Unfortunately, it's a third gen F-150 and I know these get a lot of hate, but they kind of deserve it. Don't get me wrong, the Saleen 331 is a solid looking truck. Just with that 80,000 plus sticker tag, I'd pick the SRT10. Our next entry is the Chevy Silverado RSR, and I accidentally came across this one when researching the RST. These were done by another outside company. This time it's Choo Choo Customs based in Tennessee, and I do remember a more well-known conversion done by them, which was for the El Camino SS. Unlike the other entries we've seen so far, we actually have a step-side truck, and I have mixed feelings about these. I think it's great that GM offered it as an option into the 2000s. As for the looks, I'm torn, but as time goes on, I'm liking them more and more. So there were 3 stages for these, and on screen is what you got with each stage. They all received 20-inch wheels, body cladding, stainless steel exhaust, rear bumper fascia, slotted taillight covers were lowered 2 inches. These look good. I did find that these could be had with the 4.8 or 5.3. The 4.8 made 330 horsepower and the 5.3 made 350. Both had stainless steel headers and a custom tune. They could only be had in 2 colors, yellow and orange, and it followed into the interior, and from a modern perspective it does look tacky, but I'd still love to own one of these. Up next is the Dodge Ram Daytona, offered only in 2005 and 2006, and a total of 10,000 units were built. These were pretty similar to the Rumble I mentioned earlier, except these were more reminiscent of the '69 Dodge Charger Daytona. Another unique aspect to these is that they could be had in the quad cab configuration. I personally like the 2-door more, it gives off the sport truck aesthetic better. They feature the 5.7 Hemi, sport tires, Borla dual exhaust, and same limited slip diff as the Rumblebee. Cosmetically, these have that Daytona spoiler or wing, not nearly as cool as the original, but it's a unique touch. You also got 20-inch chrome wheels, body cladding, a non-functional SRT10 hood, and we're limited to silver and Go Mango. Not as rare and definitely more common than the other examples, but definitely a fun entry to conclude the Mopars in this video. Last but not least is the Chevy SS Intimidator. I'm sure many of us are familiar with the Silverado SS. Those had the 6-liter Vortec high-output V8 rated at 345 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. They came standard with all-wheel drive on earlier models, which was eventually dropped in favor for rear-wheel drive, which definitely makes more sense. They had Z60 performance suspension, torsion bar style front suspension, along with a few other cosmetic changes. The Intimidator SS was a 2006 special edition of the SS. These were to honor Dale Earnhardt, and they came with unique badging, rear spoiler, embroidered headrest, his signature on the tachometer, and unique floor mats. On top of that, they had a lowered ride height, stiffer front stabilizer bar, upgraded shocks, and 2-stage multi-lace springs over regular SS models. Less than 1,000 of these were built, which would make them the rarest of the signature editions offered from GM during the 2000s. And there you have it, some of the forgotten sports trucks from the 2000s. If I happen to include a truck you've never heard of, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as that's what I do. I find some of the more unique and also mundane cars and share them and their stories, and it can be very interesting. I did say I was going to upload twice a week, and I ended up not uploading for 3 weeks, which is very ironic. As some of you know, I'm in the process of graduating. I'm still taking classes at the moment, and there's a lot of steps to get where I want to be with my future career. Anyway, I am trying my best, and this channel truly means everything to me, and if you made it this far, I really appreciate you sticking around. With that said, enjoy the rest of your week, and I will try and see you all next week.